Hello, welcome to another interesting economics class. My name is Emmanuel Wido. In today's class, we are looking at the theme Financial Institutions and Regulatory Agencies and the topic Types of Financial Institutions and Their Functions Part 2. By the end of the lesson, you should be able to define the term capital market, identify the types and functions of the institutions in the capital market, state some features of the capital market, list the advantages and disadvantages of the capital market, and lastly, explain the various instruments used in the capital market. In our previous class, we defined the financial market and went ahead to tell you that the financial market is divided into two types, the money market and the capital market. In our previous class, we looked at the money market, but in this class, we will be considering the capital market. The components of a developed nation depends on the basic amenities found in that nation. These amenities include good roads, potable water supply, electricity. As such, these basic amenities require huge capital to fund them. This makes it difficult for most nations to provide such amenities. One financial market that aids government and individuals by providing the huge capital required to provide basic amenities and also establish businesses is the capital market. So in this class, we will go ahead to understand the meaning of the capital market and the types of capital markets. Let's proceed as we look at the definition of the capital market. The capital market is a financial market in which long-term debt over a year or equity-backed securities are traded or bought. The capital derived from the sales of these securities are made available to governments and individuals who need them. A capital market is established for the lending and borrowing of long-term loans. These loans are used for capital projects. You cannot use a short-term loan to execute capital projects because you're looking at millions and billions of naira. That's why it is called long-term loans, because you require a long duration of time to offset this loan. Let's look at the types of capital markets. There are basically two types of capital markets. These are the primary market and the secondary market. But let's concentrate on the primary market for now. The primary market, otherwise known as new issue market, deals with securities issued at the first time. These are shares and bonds issued for purchase at the initial stage, at the first time. They have not been in the stock market before, they are just coming on board. That means they are selling such shares at the first time. This market helps in the transfer of investable funds to entrepreneurs seeking to establish new enterprises. It is important to note that securities provide some sort of ownership when they are bought. So when a company is selling shares and an individual gets to buy such shares, that individual, after purchasing these shares, becomes an owner or one of the owners of the business. The secondary market. This is the market for the purchase and sale of existing securities. It aids existing investors to sell their security and fresh investors enter the market. Here we are looking at a situation where a shareholder intends to sell his or her shares. So he or she takes it to the secondary market and offers it for sale. And another individual buys into that share to become part of the ownership component of the business. What are the features of capital market? The first of them is that apart from dealing on monetary articles, it also deals in securities for long and medium term. like shares, debentures, and bonds. Secondly, capital market deals in both marketable and non-marketable securities. Marketable securities such as shares, debentures, etc., and non-marketable securities which cannot be transferred, such as your fixed deposits with banks, loans and advances from banks and financial institutions. Thirdly, it comprises both individual and institutional investors. Individual investors are general public, and institutional investors are mutual funds, pensions, etc. The fourth feature of capital market is that it includes both primary and secondary markets, where primary markets relate to the issue of fresh securities in the market, while the secondary market deals with the sales and purchase of existing securities in the stock exchange market. And the last feature of capital market for this class is that operation in the capital market is conducted with the help of intermediaries such as the merchant bankers, underwriters, brokers and sub-brokers, and collection bankers. What are the institutions involved in the capital market? For this class, we will consider 5 of them. These are the insurance companies, development banks, commercial banks, building societies, and the stock exchange. So let's go with the first one, insurance companies. These are financial institutions that serve as financial intermediaries. They call money by providing protection from certain risks to humans and property. Insurance companies invest the resources they have gotten into huge capital projects. That means they also have the ability to provide loans to government and big investors from the proceeds they get from people who come to pick up insurance policies from an insurance company. What about development banks? These are banks established to facilitate the development of countries, especially those of West Africa. They offer long-term loans for development projects. Some of the development banks in Nigeria include the Nigerian Industrial Development Bank and the Nigerian Bank for Commerce and Industry. Commercial banks is the next institution involved in the capital market. These banks take deposits in the form of cash and other valuables. They also engage in the provision of medium and long-term loans to individuals and corporate organizations. Let's proceed to building societies. These are financial institutions that receive deposits from members of the public on interest basis and also offer depositors long-term loans to enable them fund building projects. They get deposits and then they have the ability to provide long-term loans to those who want to fund building projects alone. That's why they are called building societies. The stock exchange market. This market is involved in the buying and selling of existing and new securities issued by the public organizations and industry. The stock exchange provides a place for brokers who wish to buy and sell shares. So when you have your shares and you need to sell them, the best place to go to is the stock exchange market. In Nigeria, the regulatory body for stock exchange market is the Security and Exchange Commission, the SEC, which was established in 1979. Don't forget that. What are the functions of the stock exchange as a market? The first of them is that it assists companies in raising capital by changing the securities into monetary form. Basically, the shares you're buying are just abstract. You're just seeing a piece of paper showing that a certain individual has a number of shares in a company. But that piece of paper has been converted to a monetary form. So you could actually state how much the shares are worth by just looking at the piece of paper and accepting to purchase the piece of paper before you, because they are not giving you the shares. You're not going to see the shares, but they have a document that tells you that this person is worth this in company A. So when you agree to buy, it means that the document you have before you automatically becomes yours, and you are now part and parcel of the ownership of that business. The second function is to disseminate information on securities to industrialists, investors, etc. When you're looking for advice on which company's shares you should buy, the best place you should go to is the Nigerian Stock Exchange market. That's for those in Nigeria. They will give you the best advice on the trending shares, the most profitable shares to buy into. The third function is that the price quoted in the stock exchange market plays the role of economic performance indicator. So when the stock exchange quotes a price of shares, bonds, you're able to know how profitable that firm is. The price tells you that yes, this firm is actually making profit. So you decide whether you're going to buy their shares or not. The fourth function of the stock exchange market is that it helps government implement its monetary policies. They also serve as advisory body to the government on monetary policies. Furthermore, through the sales of government securities, they help in raising capital for the government. When they sell government bonds to individuals, they are helping the government raise capital to fund these basic amenities. The last function for this class is that the stock exchange market serves as an advisory body to the government. I said that before. So when you're looking for advice on shares and bonds, please go into the stock exchange market and ask for that. What are the instruments used in the capital market? Basically, there are two instruments used in the capital market. These are bonds and shares. These securities are bought by individuals, and they represent an evidence of the individual's part in the total capital used in running an existing company or business. By buying into the securities of a company, the individual becomes a shareholder in that company, and at the end of every fiscal year receives a dividend for providing part of his income for the running of the company. As long as the company remains in existence, such an individual becomes a member and owner of the business. If the business closes down, then the individual has lost all the income invested in the business. Having said all this, let's take a quick summary of what we have learned in our class today. In today's class, I told you that a capital market is a financial market in which long-term debt over a year or equity-backed securities are bought and sold. I also told you that the capital market is divided into two categories, which are the primary market and the secondary market. Next, we learned that primary market deals with new securities being issued for the first time, while secondary market deals with the sales and purchase of existing securities. Furthermore, we understood that one of the primary features of the capital market is that it deals in securities for long and medium terms. We also learned that some institutions involved in the capital market are the commercial banks, building societies, and the stock exchange. Next, we learned that the stock exchange is a place where shares of public listed companies are traded. Going on, we learned that the stock market serves as an advisory body to the government, corporations, and individuals. And lastly, we learned that the instruments used in the capital markets are shares and bonds. At this point, I would like to know if you have gathered anything in my class today. Let's take a few test questions. Question number 1. Dash is a financial market where medium and long-term loans are granted and equity-backed securities are being bought and sold? A. Money market, B. Capital market, or C. World market? The right answer to this question is option B, the capital market. Question number 2. The instruments used in capital market include dash and dash. A. Paper money and coins. B. Shares and bonds. C. Shops and goods. The right answer to this question is also option B, shares and bonds. This is where we end our class today. I hope by now you can define the capital market, state the types of capital market, and list some features of the capital market. Until I see you again in another interesting economics class. Bye-bye.